Kyle Larson lost this race by choosing the outside. And that was just an inexplicable call to me because almost everybody all day long when in the lead had taken the inside lane.
Hey race fans, welcome to another episode of Backseat Drivers, all about Las Vegas this week, and I have the NBC guys here at the table with me, Steve Letarte and Nate Ryan. Alex Bowman saw a two-tire gamble by Greg Ives pay off. He wins a thrilling overtime race, edging out his teammate Kyle Larson, marks the third different winner for the 2022 season. All right, Steve, we're starting with you on this one. Did Bowman win the race, or did Larson lose it? There's always a winner and a loser in NASCAR.
There is, but in my mind, it's clear Bowman won the race. And I'll say this, these races are too hard to win. When I go back and watch all the different races, it doesn't matter whether it's weather, pit stop strategy, it's a team effort. The winners have won the race. I know someone has to lose it, but every time I'm going to tip my hat to the guy or team that put the effort in to go to victory lane, so I say Bowman won it.
Nate?
I mean, I'll give Alex Bowman and Greg Ives a lot of credit. I mean, they put themselves in position to win this race. I don't want to take away too much from them, but Kyle Larson lost this race by choosing the outside. And that was just an inexplicable call to me because almost everybody all day long when in the lead had taken the inside lane. The only two occurrences I can recall of guys taking the outside were Michael McDowell early in the race, he lost the lead, and then Kyle Larson on this last restart. Kyle Larson 2 restarts earlier had taken the inside and maintained the lead. So I think he might have overthought this one, he might have psyched himself out a little bit too much, but he has control of that race as the leader, and I think that if he takes the inside, he beats Alex Bowman.
Listen, I mean, it's easy to say when he looks back, but this is what I will say. I think they were concerned about the 4 tires. And I think if you're on the bottom, you're playing block, block, block to your left. When I go back and watch the restart, I give Bowman the win because I think he got a great restart from the inside. I think if he doesn't get such a great restart, right behind him is fresher tires, and I think he was going to compare. The other thing I will say is I believe the length of the caution cooled those left side tires, and those guys on 2 tires looked like they had 4. I mean, you went on board for a couple replays, and their time on throttle was very, very high. If you want to say Larson lost it, it wasn't by lane choice only. It was speeding and not being involved in the final segment up front. I think it's distracting as a team. You have to grind from behind. They did that, but you wonder if he had raced up front all day long, if he'd have been better off to pick the lane he needed.
I'll go back to the restart that he had a couple of restarts earlier. He started from the inside and did okay. I understand what you're saying about heat cycles, temperatures, and the tires and that sort of thing, and the wear. But to me, I think you can overthink these things when you're in the lead, and I think that we've seen it before with Kyle Larson. We didn't see it at all last year. I mean, he won 10 races, clearly seized the championship when the moment presented itself. But this has been a knock on Kyle Larson maybe earlier in his career where he had a little bit of trouble closing things out sometimes. And I think that might have been what we saw at Las Vegas.
All right, well, Kyle Busch not happy on the radio thanks that Alex Bowman just backed into it like every other win. So we'll let you guys at home decide. Well, did last week's incident factor into how aggressive Kyle Larson was on the racetrack now at Vegas? We saw he and his teammate Chase Elliott have a little bit of a disagreement at Fontana. Auto Club did not pay well for the 2 teammates, but Rick called him into a meeting. Mr. H sat them both down. I don't know how that went. They claim that it went well, but Nate, what do you think? Did that factor into Larson?
I don't think it made a difference, Alex, because to me that meeting was more for Chase Elliott than it was for Kyle Larson. That was Rick Hendrick ensuring that nothing festered between his drivers, Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. That was to ensure that there would be no ill will coming out of what happened at Fontana. And I don't think that Kyle Larson needed to be reminded that, hey, don't wreck the other guy this week who's on your team. Don't hit that guy on a restart doing like that. I think he didn't mean to do it at Fontana, and he wasn't going to try to do it again. So I don't think he raced any less aggressively or any different around Alex Bowman on that restart, Stevie, but I do think that, again, I think he overthought it. I think that it was more about the mistake he made than about the meeting.
Yeah, so I agree with Nate that the meeting wasn't about Fontana alone, right? I think we're starting to see this which is a great, the best problem to have, 2 superstars inside the same camp racing for wins time after time after time, and we've seen that a lot last year. And I think this is just Mr. H being Mr. H. I've been there a long time. I've been in a few of those meetings. They are not fun, especially if you're a crew chief, because you just want the drivers to get talked at. The truth is, I agree with Nate. I don't think this had anything to do with it. the circumstances, they were side by side. I thought it was great racing. And Alex Bowman said it as soon as he got out of the car, he talked about the great racing that him and Kyle Larson have had many times and how clean it's always been. So I don't think last week had anything to do with this week. I think it was just a good, respectful. Now, Kyle Larson didn't give him an extra foot because he was his teammate either.
Right.
It wasn't contact, but he drove down into turn 3, as close as I think he would have to any other car in the field. And as a race fan, I think we should be thankful. We don't need over-aggressive and teammates wrecking each other. That's not good racing. But we still want good racing. And what I saw was great racing by 2 teammates that were trying to beat each other, zero doubt.
Well, I do have to credit Greg Ives. He came on the radio after Alex won and said that it had been 5 years to the day that he has lost his mom. So a little extra angel dust there on the 48. Well, let's get into the 4 Hendrick drivers. I want to stay with this organization because we saw back in 2021, they were the team to beat. 2022, they have 50% already locked into the playoffs, 2 of their 4 cars with Kyle Larson and Alex Bowman. Let's rank all 4 of the drivers right now. Nate, you want to take this complicated question?
Well,
Let's start. Who's your number 1?
I'd go Larson. I still think Larson is the number 1 because I think on balance over time during these 3 races, he's shown the greatest ability to race at the front. And he's still Kyle Larson. He's still defending Cup Series champion,
Right.
still in many people's minds the greatest driver of his generation. After that, though, I'd go Bowman. I mean, I think you got to put him number 2 because of the win at Vegas. And then after that, I'd probably put William Byron ahead of Chase Elliott right now, to Chase Elliott's chagrin, which is, again, why I think Rick Hendrick maybe needed to have that meeting. It was more for Chase Elliott than anybody else.
Meeting, Nate.
Sure. Yeah, he calls me all the time.
Well, so before I rank them, I will say that these drivers, when I look at Chase Elliott, he knows that it is a 26-race regular season. He knows it's a new car. We had a conversation earlier, like, why didn't he gamble and try to get track position at the end? I think it's Alan and Chase saying, hey, this is the day we're having. We're going to put 4 tires on it. Bring the car home in one piece, try to learn from this. What can we be better? Like, they're building on something. They don't have to be the best each and every week. Now, they're trying to be the best. So I think it's easy to agree on Larson as number 1. I have to put Chase second.
Why?
I think I just weigh a championship so much and what it does to your career and what it does to your psyche. It's very hard to defend. I think there is some, toughness to come in as being a champion and then see Larson come in and win 9 races. And the problem is we're trying to rank after 3 races. I can't take 3 races out of their entire career. And then Bowman and then Byron, that's not a knock on either of them. I think if Bowman can find another 3 or 4 wins, then I'm going to have to buy him a fruit basket and tell him that I need to pay more attention because it's spectacular what he's doing. And I still say William Byron is very, very young. Give him a little bit of time. He's continuing to mature as a race car driver. I think, and they do a good job to kind of protect him in the organization, much like they did Chase when he was very young. I don't think they need wins out of Byron yet. They know they're going to get him in time.
All right, well, I have 2 NBC crew members right here. Kyle Petty, who is also a counterpart of their NBC crew, picked Bowman to win last week. So, KP, I don't know what magic dust you have in that hair or what is working on with you, but, man, you picked the winner. Okay, well, the Fords showed up at Daytona. The Chevys showed up at Fontana. We saw a little bit of a mix now when it came to Vegas of some other manufacturers. I'm mentioning one, Toyota, specifically with Joe Gibbs Racing. Maybe found the speed that they've been looking for. Didn't necessarily end the way that they wanted with Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Busch. Christopher Bell won the pole at Las Vegas. So, Nate, it's JGR finally found the speed.
I think they found some of the speed they're looking for, Alex, but I think in the case of the way the race unfolded, they found the race they were looking for, especially with Martin Truex Jr. We know he's built a career on being a long-run driver. It's how he won the 2017 championship. It's how he wins a lot of these races on 1.5-mile tracks. And I think the way that race unfolded definitely played into his hands until that last caution that jumbled it up and allowed Bowman to win. So I think the race played into Truex's hands, and the fact that they were able to capitalize on what has been their strength in the past, being that long-run driver. I think that does show that JGR has found the speed in the next gen for that type of race complexion. I'll say about Kyle Busch, the fact that he was able to get in a backup car, and as he put it, somebody asked him, is the backup car that different than the primary? He's like, well, the cars are built at Walmart now, so it wasn't really that much of a disadvantage. So I think that is a credit to JGR that they could take these spec parts that are now on these cars now and throw together a backup car in 9 hours and have Kyle Busch run up front and nearly contend for the win. I think that's a really good sign. On balance, across the board, Stevie, yeah, it seems like JGR did have the speed at Vegas.
Oh, yeah, they did. They had the speed at Vegas. Unfortunately for them, Vegas is nothing like California. It's nothing like Phoenix. I mean, that's what makes the start of the season so great. I know Daytona's Daytona, throw that out. But even the West Coast swing, a 2-mile highway racetrack, a 1.5-mile high-speed bumpy racetrack to a 1-mile very smooth racetrack in Phoenix. Like, there's a lot of variety. Do I think the Toyotas had the speed in Las Vegas? I do. They looked great. If it wasn't for a late yellow, they had the race won. I thought Chastain had more speed, but either adjustments, drivers finding more speed, whatever happened in that final run, it was clear to me that Kyle Busch, and I actually think Martin Truex Jr. had the best car to stay that close to Kyle Busch for those closing laps. And I will be honest, I would have to watch that race 3 or 4 or 5 times to see who was really good, because with all the yellows, the field was just cycled around so much. Who was on 2 tires, who was on none. Ross Chastain, I think, was the one that consistently showed great speed. So him being in a bow tie, it'll be interesting to see how that camp kind of circles back. But it's a learning curve for sure, big learning curve.
Now let's get to the rapid response powered by 5 Hour Energy. No driver so far, and I say so far, it's been 3 races, we're being very dramatic, but no driver has led 100+ laps in a race yet. We've had some drivers that have come close, but no cigar. So who's the first driver that will do it, Steve?
Kyle, you can pick which one.
Come on. Where's your Larson?
I think when I look at Phoenix,
So what happens this week?
I'll go, okay, I'll say Kyle Busch.
Okay.
That's my answer.
All right, Martin Truex Jr., because look at the race, the championship race last year at Phoenix. I talk about that long run car Truex has. I think he is set in a caution-free type race, which I think NASCAR finally will get a little bit fewer
disagree
yellows.
with him on that.
I think there'll be fewer yellows at Phoenix. Again, look at the way last year played out. I think Truex will lead more than 100 laps at Phoenix.
We've seen some of these fresh faces in new places running up front here in this 2022 season, especially now given this next-gen car. So will we see a change of the guard this season? I'm talking teams like the 43 of Erik Jones that Nate mentioned earlier. You see the 8 of Tyler Reddick, the 3 of Austin Dillon, and I can't not credit Trackhouse because, man, what a day with the 1 of Ross Chastain. So, Nate, change the guard?
I think it's possible, Alex, the teams you just mentioned, but it's predicated on what we talked about earlier, that does Chevrolet continue to show strength on these tracks? Because I think Trackhouse, Petty GMS, that's somewhat of this, and Richard Childress Racing, those 3 teams obviously are all kind of, yeah, I mean, they're all kind of tied together.
Right.
And so that secret sauce spreads through all 3 of them, and if it goes away, then I think it becomes a little bit problematic. But I do think that Tyler Reddick is on the verge of winning his first race. I think there's no question he will get his inaugural victory this year. Austin Dillon, again, like he ran at the back for much of the first half of the Las Vegas race and just bided his time. So it's not just that he's got a fast car, but I mean, he's in his 9th season now in Cup, and it's hard to believe, but I think that veteran experience is coming to fruition for a guy who's still in his early 30s. And Suarez and Chastain, I think the last 2 races certainly have shown that Trackhouse has a really good foundation. I just think the key is, can the Chevys continue to run so well?
All right, listen, will they lead more laps? They will. Will they win a race here or there? They will. But at the end, if you only came in and turned on the last 40 of the last couple races, you're like, oh, Larson's up front. Oh, Kyle Busch is up front. I hear what you're saying, and it should be commended because it is very hard to bring fast race cars and lead laps, and they are doing it. What Ross Chastain did was wonderful. I even liked what he had to say when he got out of the car even better, which is he told Regan, I've been working very hard on staying patient, and I had to keep talking to myself all day long.
He read a book about it.
Yeah, listen, but that is a race car driver who is working on his craft.
Right.
That was great to hear.
Yes.
So do I think there is this wave of, I don't want to call them young because you mentioned a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And are they going to, nibble away at laps led and a win here or there? For sure. Do I think they're going to fill up the championship 4 and oust Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Truex, Hamlin, make the long list of veterans that are battling for the championship 4? I do not quite yet. Someone's going to have a breakout year.
We're not going to see Suarez, Chastain, and Jones as part of the Final 4.
No,
maybe one.
But I will double down to say that nor should we expect it.
Yeah.
Like it takes time, and this is a very, very difficult thing these guys are trying to do. It might be a new car, but it's a lot of the same racetracks. The concept of getting to the finish is kind of the same, and the veterans make a great run at it.
All right, well, you have a seat at the table. You're just not quite at the head of the table yet. Well, a guy who could have gotten one of these checked off this past weekend at Las Vegas is Kyle Busch. He led a lot of laps, and if it hadn't been for a late race caution, it may have been the 18 and that green machine in Victory Lane breaking that up. I guess it was mint. I don't know what color we're calling it. Breaking the green curse. Well, does Kyle Busch win more than 2 races this season, Nate?
I think so. I think that we have seen, and I know we've debated the old Kyle Busch, new Kyle Busch thing for over a decade. I don't want to get into that, but I do think that mentality matters with Kyle Busch, and despite the fact that he was a little bit salty on the radio about Alex Bowman, as he put it, backing into this race afterward, it was the good kind of salty Kyle Busch, and during the race, he had that moment, Stevie, I think it was near the end of stage 2, where he suddenly realized, oh my gosh, I'm 9 laps short than these other guys I'm running with. I'm gonna have to pit before the end of the stage. They're not. He didn't seem miffed at his crew. He didn't seem upset at Bayshore. Like, he took that and processed that knowledge and still ran really, really fast. So I feel like this is a different Kyle Busch in terms of his confidence in his team and in his crew chief. In his second year with this new guy, that I think for sure he wins more than 2 races.
So the fact that he had a chance to win this one makes this a resounding yes, because nothing seemed to go right from the minute they unloaded.
Yeah.
Flat tire, wrecked car,
Back,
parts
middle,
and pieces.
front.
And then this show isn't long enough to highlight his day. Fox did a nice job of kind of showing everything they had going on, but even that took 3 minutes. He was backwards, wrecked, hit the fence. I mean, everything seemed to go wrong. Yet, boop, there he was. And I know he didn't win it. I'm not going to blame a caution because, like I said earlier, Bowman won the race. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But the fact that he can get through that much of a road trip, that grind of 400 miles to be in contention, tells me that this team is ready to have a great season, and I consider a great season, 3, 4, 5 wins. I would be shocked if Kyle Busch doesn't end up somewhere in that total.
Well, and if anybody in a garage that you're getting your car worked on tells you that it can't be done in 8 or 9 hours, talk to the 18 team, because it can. All right, another guy who's had a stellar start to the season, especially given his 2021 record of how he started last season, but it will be his final full-time season in the NASCAR Cup Series. The 10 of Erik Amarola is the only driver to be in the top 10 for all 3 races this season. So, Steve, how far does the 10 go in his final season?
Well, it's wonderful to see Erik running up front in his last year, and I think consistency should be rewarded, but much like we talked about the young versus the veterans, consistency is good, but he isn't leading laps ending up in the top 10. He's doing a great job of managing the race.
Just being there.
And just being there. So do I think if you're there long enough, can you get a win? Can it fall this way? Look, he dominated New Hampshire. It didn't fall his way at all. He was the best car there last year. So can he show up and be dominant? Perhaps. Do I think he has a better chance of just continuing to put himself in position? I do. I think he should just enjoy the year, and maybe that's why he's running consistently in the top 10. Maybe I remember at the end of my career, the weight you carry around a performance is crushing, and you don't even know it exists because you have it every single year. But then when you know it's your last year and the weight gets lifted, you're like, what's changed? Something magical has changed. And I don't know what it was. I called my best races because I was back having fun racing, not racing for a career. Yeah. And I have to wonder if Erik Amarola is not just having a great time. He seems to be smiling. You see him walking around with his kids a lot. He's just having a good time. So enjoy it. I don't want to put pressure on how far it gets him, as far as he wants. Have a great final season. He deserved kind of a send-off. I'm glad it's getting off to a good start.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that, Stevie. There's a certainty to his career that maybe at times he didn't have that, like many racing drivers. There were times where sponsorships or teams didn't really solidify what his future was going to look like. Now he knows exactly what his future is going to look like. This is it. And he's with a good team still in Stewart-Haas. I'm surprised, Alex, by how good he's been. And when you ask, how far could he go, I'll say round of 8. And I wouldn't have said that before the year. But the fact that he started this year with 3 solid top 10s, and to Steve's point, he's put himself in good positions. He's leveraging that experience. To me, he's kind of like a latter-day Ryan Newman. You remember Ryan Newman in 2014 when that first season at Childress, where he made it all the way to the championship round by just top 5s and top 10s. I could see that for Erik Amarola this year. He's been in the round of 8 before. Granted, he has done that by winning a race or 2. He could still do that at a Talladega, which looms out there a couple more times this season. So I'll say round of 8 for his final year.
All right, Backseat Bets. It's Steve Letarte's favorite time of the show. It's presented by BetMGM. I say it's his favorite, but he's not very good at it. Neither am I. Myself and Mamba, Nate, we will rack up your score after this, but myself and Mamba are 2 for 7 or 8. I think it's 2 for 7, so not much better. But Steve did say he would buy coffee. He didn't say that. He said the loser would buy coffee, but
It's awful.
Those who wear the crown, it's the
Hey,
heaviest.
listen, I'll own it. I'll own it. Matter of fact, I have my picks, and I've circled them, and I'm looking down here, not even sure they're the right ones. So this could be a game time decision.
All right, well, as we all know, this is head-to-head. This is not who we think is going to win the race. It is just who we think is going to beat out the head-to-head matchup. So, Nate, let's start with you on this one. Alex Bowman in the 48 coming off that momentum in Las Vegas, or Christopher Bell in the 20 who just won the pole last week?
I'll take Alex Bowman because I do think that momentum is a thing in motorsports, and it seems like he's going up. Christopher Bell, even though he won the pole, he didn't have a great Vegas race, so he's going the other way.
I'll take Christopher Bell over Alex Bowman. When you look back at stats, to steal some of Nate Ryan's stats, when Alex Bowman wins, the races on either side of his win sometimes can get a little, I don't want to call it lackluster, but not the shining moment of the win he had a week ago.
Yep.
I expect a good week. I expect both of these guys to run inside the top 10. So to win this head-to-head, you're not going to do it with the 17th. You're going to have to be up in the front of the race, but I'm going to give it to Christopher Bell.
All right, I agree with Nate. Momentum is the thing. I'm going with Alex Bowman in the 48, the hometown kid in Arizona. Next up, man, oh man, this matchup. Kevin Harvick versus Brad Keselowski. Steve?
I'm taking Harvick only because I think RFK and Brad Keselowski are still on a big, steep learning curve. They did good in Daytona. I don't want to say it's rocky. I know what they're trying to accomplish. It's a lot to turn an organization back in the direction you hope to go. For that reason, I think Kevin Harvick,
I'll say Rocky. I think Roush Fenway Keselowski's struggles have been the
Just rolls
surprise
off
of the
the tongue,
season. Yeah,
doesn't
doesn't it? RFK Racing. And I think now we look back at Daytona and we saw Brad Keselowski maybe drove with the desperation of someone who knew he wasn't going to get a chance to win very often this year. And I think Fontana and Vegas have shown that. So this is an easy pick for me, sadly, for Keselowski. I'll go with Harvick.
Do we all three have Harvick?
We do.
Uh-oh.
Take Brad.
Take
Looking
Brad.
at our stats.
All
My
right.
goodness. We are bad at this.
Next up are the two teammates from Joe Gibbs Racing. Both showed a lot of speed at Vegas, but is it coming down to Denny Hamlin or the 19 of Martin Truex Jr., Nate?
I'm all in on Truex clearly throughout this program. So he's still my pick. Leading over 100 laps, maybe winning the race.
Okay.
I have Truex as well. I almost thought Hamlin, uncanny mistake. Basically, according to the radio, I guess he downshifted instead of upshifted, which it's a long story, but I can see how it can happen. So I almost leaned Hamlin like he was going to have bounce back. But I think Truex, he's driving with a determination that's there and it's real. So I think Truex is going to be hard to beat in Phoenix.
All right. 3 for the 19, which you know what that means? Denny Hamlin will probably win the race. So-
No, this is our breakout week.
Yeah.
This is the
Okay.
breakout
I feel
week.
like I should say here, I'm 6 for 8 on matchups this year
Okay.
in the last 2 races. You have to take my word for it.
Well, then I'm
On
cheating
the-
off Nate's paper.
On the NASCAR.com fantasy game, I'm 6 for 8 this
I
year.
looked at the wrong paper over
Yep.
here. All right, this last matchup here for the backseat bets, we have the 10 of Erik Amarola. We've talked about the consistency so far this season, and then the surprise. I don't know if any of us could have seen maybe the speed that they've had the last at least 2 weeks. The 1 of Ross Chastain, Nate.
I'll take Erik Amarola again because I think he's just showing that he's leveraging that veteran mindset right now. I think to Steve's point about the way Bowman has kind of been hit or miss. I think we saw that with Trackhouse with Suarez week to week, and I think we could see that with Chastain.
I'm taking Chastain purely from the interview post-race where he was not talking about his car, his team, the weather, the city, didn't make excuses. He purely put it on himself and growing as a race car driver and his mentality and his approach and his mental fortitude of get through a long race. Phoenix isn't a long race, but I think that also happens week to week. And I think if he saw the fruits of his labor a week ago, if they can give him a reasonably good car to drive, then I think he's going to outrun Erik Amarola. Plus, it's like roulette. I mean, Eric's been in the top 10 3 weeks in a row. How can he, Yeah.
Hey, just keep Dolly Parton on his car, and he will find victory lane eventually. I am also on Team Nate for this one. I'm going with the 10 of Erik Amarola. Hard to beat consistency. Well, now, next up, we are heading to the desert, the speedy track of Phoenix, which is important for crew chiefs and drivers and teams to fill these notebooks because this will be the site of our championship race again for the 2022 season. But man, the dog leg, these restarts here. Oh, I have so much fun at Phoenix. Nate, you are our first timer here on the backseat Phoenix pick. Who you got?
I hate to be boring, Alex, but I got to stick with Truex. I mean, clearly I am definitely, again, Stevie just used roulette. I'll use another Vegas-ism. All in. I am definitely all in on Martin Truex Jr. at Phoenix.
Well, until someone proves that they can beat Hendrick and beat Hendrick consistently. I think they've won 7 or 8 or 8 or 9, not counting the Daytona 500. It is a long streak. I'm going for a little bit more variety just to have everybody with a head scratcher. I'll say Chase Elliott.
Oh.
Chase Elliott and the 9 wins at Phoenix to really upend it all through the whole summer.
That'll just make those meetings a little bit better, I think. All right, I am going with a guy who wanted the win. He wants to win every week, but man, it looked like it might have been the 18 of Kyle Busch at Vegas, so I'm going to pick him in Phoenix. He's really good at the desert. Hopefully they're not spending 9 hours repairing a car after practice. All right, well, make sure and tune into the NASCAR Cup Series, the final race for this West Coast swing that we have to start the season off. It will be Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Nate and Steve, as always, such a pleasure. We'll see you right back here next week in the backseat. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more clips, highlights, and full-length episodes. Also, check out NASCAR.com to stay up to date with all the latest news.